Content warning. This episode may not be suitable for all audiences. Please be advised that the story you are about to hear contains disturbing themes, frightening imagery, and situations that some listeners may find unsettling. Listener discretion is advised.
Stories Philippines podcast.
Welcome back to Stories Philippines, everyone. I am Paul.
And I am Angel.
And I am Zach.
Tonight is a special one because we are all in the same room. Usually we are on Skype, terrible audio, weird echoes, but tonight we made the effort to meet up. We are in the same physical space, breathing the same air. And that makes a difference when you are fire telling horror stories, because you can see the fear on each other's faces. You can feel the tension in the room. And when something scary comes up, you do not have to imagine the reaction. You can see it.
We are recording together, face to face, in the same room. And honestly, that makes the stories even scarier, because you can see the look on each other's faces when something creepy comes up. I already looked at Zach twice during the intro, and he looks terrified.
I've ballooing just for this, and I already regret it because Angel told me what stories we have lined up tonight. He gave me a preview, a teaser, and I could not sleep last night. I literally lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining every sound being something on my roof.
That is the power of these stories. They stay with you. They follow you home. They sit on your shoulder and whisper to you in the dark. And tonight, we have 15 of them. 15 real encounters from people who sent them in. And every single one of them is going to make you check your roof tonight before you go to bed.
Oh God, the roof stories. There are so many roof stories tonight. I do not know what it is about the Philippines and things being on the roof, but it is a pattern. A disturbing pattern.
What is it with the Philippines and things being on the roof? In Canada, the worst thing on your roof is a raccoon. And even that is terrifying. But at least a raccoon is a raccoon. It does not have wings. It does not have red eyes. It does not smell like death.
That is exactly what we're going to find out. So settle in, grab something warm, and let us get into it. All right, our first story comes from a listener named Crispy Atterbo. She sent this in about something that happened to her family during Ghost Month a few years back. And I have to warn you, this one involves a manananggal. If you do not know what that is, imagine a woman who splits in half at the waist. The top half grows wings and flies away to hunt. The bottom half stays behind, standing in a banana grove or a field, looking like an ordinary person from a distance. That is the manananggal. And Crispy Adobo came face to face with one.
Face to face? Through what?
Through a window. But let me start from the beginning. Her family had gone back to the Philippines for a reunion, a small party at their house in the province. The house had 2 rooms. One of the rooms had a tinted, reinforced window right beside the bed. Crispy Adobo was sitting across from that window, talking to her cousin, who was sitting right below it.
So far, so good. Family reunion, everyone is happy.
Then the music from the living room suddenly stopped. Dead silence. And one of her aunties rushed all the little kids into the room they were in. Before she left, she looked straight at Crispy Adobo and her cousin and said, "In Bishara, there is something outside the window." Salt on. The windowsill, close the curtains, stay silent.
Wait, just like that? No explanation?
No explanation. She threw a packet of salt at the cousin and left. The cousin immediately sprinkled salt on the windowsill, locked the windows, closed the curtains. Crispy Adobo turned off the lights. The only light they had was a dim old lamp. The little kids huddled in the corner, away from the window. Crispy Adobo whispered to her cousin, "Is the Nastan outside?" And the cousin nodded and said, "I do not know, but if Andy says to do all those things, then it is probably something bad."
I already have cholas.
They sat in silence for 15 minutes. Then the silence broke. A screeching noise came from the window. Something was scratching the glass from the outside. Everyone froze. One of the little kids was about to start crying, but Crispy Adobo covered their mouth with her hand and hugged them.
What was it scratching with? Fingers. Claws.
She did not say, but the thing outside kept tapping and scratching on the glass. Then it stopped. It seemed to realize the salt was on the windowsill, and it had wings flapping as it went away.
Wings. It had wings.
They stayed in the dark for another 30 minutes. Then the auntie came back. She asked if everyone was all right. One of the little kids pointed at the window and said, "Auntie, why is the window cracked?" The auntie looked at the window, her eyes widened, and she rushed outside. She came back with Crispy Adobo's uncle, who told them all to stay inside. Crispy Adobo does not remember exactly what he said, but later he told her and her cousin that it was a menananggal outside.
Tamanian nagal, the thing that splits in half and flies.
That is the one. Upper half flies, lower half stays behind. And it was on their window.
And the window was cracked. That means it was trying to get in.
Crispy Adobo said her cousin was terrified, but she was thrilled and terrified at the same time. She had experienced something real, the kind of real that you cannot get from movies or books, the kind that crawls under your skin and stays there.
What did the window look like afterward? Was there a crack? Scratch marks?
She said there was a thin crack in the glass, not a big one, just a hairline fracture running from the bottom corner upward, like something had pressed against it with incredible force, but not enough to shatter it completely.
That means it was strong enough to crack reinforced glass but chose not to break through. Why?
Maybe the salt stopped it. Maybe it tested the barrier and realized it could not get through. Or maybe it was not trying to get in. Maybe it was just trying to get attention.
That is a terrifying thought. A creature 9 feet tall hovering outside your window tapping on the glass, and all they want is for you to look at it.
And Crispy Adobo almost did. She said she was reaching for the curtain before her cousin grabbed her arm. If she had pulled that curtain back, she would have been face to face with it. Through the glass. Inches away.
Again, made me a thing I can't. I cannot even imagine the Manananggal face. That transformed face with the fangs and the red eyes and the wings spread out behind it, inches from your face through a window.
That image is going to stay with me for a long time. And the fact that this happened during a family reunion, a happy occasion, a celebration, and something was outside, waiting, watching, hungry.
It makes you wonder how many of these creatures are out there during every gathering, every celebration, every moment when families come together, just beyond the window, just beyond the light.
That is the Filipino experience, bro. Joy and horror, side by side, always. And that is what makes Filipino horror different from Western horror. In Western horror, the monster invades your home. It breaks in attacks. In Filipino horror, the monster is already there. It is your neighbor. It is the person who smiles at you at the market. It is the relative who brings food to your house. The horror is not the invasion. The horror is the integration. The monster is already part of your life. You just do not know it yet.
That is a really deep way to look at it.
He explains why so many of these stories involve people the victim knows. The old man in the province, the nurse at the hospital, the neighbor with the carabao. These are not strangers lurking in the shadows. They are people who live next door. People who sit across from you at dinner. People who wave at you from their porch.
And that is the real Kumbu. Not the creature in the dark. The creature in the light. The creature that looks like everyone else. The creature that you cannot distinguish from the people you trust.
I am looking at both of you differently right now.
Good. Stay suspicious. That is how you survive. She forgot about it for years until her mom brought it up recently and she wanted to share it with us. I would not be thrilled. I would be moving to a hotel.
Tells you exactly what to do though. Salt, curtains, silence. She did not hesitate. That tells me this is not the first time it has happened in that family.
That is what gets me. The speed of the reaction. No one panicked, no one screamed, they just moved. Like it was routine.
That is almost scarier than the creature itself. The fact that they have a protocol.
Exactly. Alright, story number 2. This one comes from a listener named Sleepy Tarsier. He grew up in a province that he says is basically famous for Ashwang stories. He says it is the first thing that comes to mind when people ask where he is from.
Which come built.
He did not say specifically, but he said his family and friends have tons of stories. He, on the other hand, never had a personal experience. He says he has been into deep jungle, mountains, remote places, and every time people warn him, he basically rolls his eyes.
Classic skeptic.
Classic skeptic. Until this happened. He was staying at his ex-girlfriend's place, which was in a different province, also notoriously famous for Oswald. One night, her cousin, who had just had a baby, was alone in their house. The house was just a few meters away, within the family compound, but deep into a sugarcane farm.
New mother alone in the sugarcane farm.
She called for help on her mobile phone. She told the family that something or someone had been making violent noises on their roof. Sleepy Tarzia watched from the balcony as the family rushed toward the cousin's house with bolo knives and pointed bamboo trunks.
Golo knives. They came armed.
Fully armed. He tried to follow them outside, but his ex-girlfriend's mom pulled him back. She said he should stay inside since he was not a local and could only get himself into trouble. He was frustrated, but he stayed. From the balcony, he could hear the shouting, the calling, speaking things of names. He could see flashes of light as they tried to fend off the creature. It was almost 10 minutes of commotion.
10 minutes. That is a long time to be fighting something.
When everything settled, everyone went back inside. They told Sleepy Tashes that they knew who the person was. They could stop it just by calling its name. They revealed the identity, and he realized he actually knew who they were talking about. An old man in the neighborhood.
Wait, the aswang was a person?
That is what they believe. Some aswang in Filipino folklore are real people who have the ability to transform. The family warned Sleepy Tarsier not to talk to the person and to always greet him first if they cross paths. That way, the person would not feel disrespected and would not target him.
Did he listen?
One afternoon, almost sundown, he encountered the old man on his way home. He was curious. The person seemed harmless, so he intentionally let the old man greet him first. They talked for a bit. He even felt pity for the guy because the neighbors avoided him.
Oh no!
When he got back to his ex's place, they were furious. They scolded him. They said he was stupid. They told him he needed a shaman to protect him from enchantments. He respectfully refused, and he kept passing by the old man whenever he could, just to prove a point.
Thursday.
He says it has been more than a decade, and he is still amazed by how crazy that was. But there is something deeper in his story that I want to talk about.
What do you mean?
He deliberately provoked an aswang. He let the old man greet him first. He talked to him. He pitied him. He went back again and again, and nothing happened to him.
Is that because the stories are not real or because the old man chose not to hurt him?
That is the question, right? In Filipino folklore, aswang can be triggered by disrespect. If you show them respect, they might leave you alone. But Sleepy Tarsier was not showing respect. He was showing defiance. He was saying, I do not believe you are dangerous.
And the aswang just let him be?
Maybe the old man was not an aswang at all. Maybe the family was wrong. Or maybe the old man was tired. Maybe after decades of being feared and avoided, he had lost the will to hurt anyone. Maybe he just wanted someone to talk to.
That is the saddest interpretation. A creature that everyone fears, sitting alone in a province, and the only person who talks to him is the tourist, who does not believe in him.
And that is what makes these stories so complicated. They are not just about monsters, they are about people, about fear, about the line between what we believe and what we know. Sleepy Tarsier never saw the aswang transform. He never saw it do anything supernatural. All he saw was an old man that everyone avoided.
And he chose to believe the old man was just a person, not a monster.
That choice saved him. Or maybe it was always going to be fine. We will never know.
And that uncertainty, that is the real horror, not knowing. He never did have a supernatural experience, but he admits it was fun. I think that's the most dangerous kind of story. The one where nothing happens to you, so you believe nothing will ever happen.
And that is exactly the kind of confidence that gets people taken. All right, story number 3. This one comes from a listener named Quiet Manila. This happened during a wake. Her grandfather had passed away, and the family was holding vigil at their house in the province.
Wakes are already creepy enough.
Right, everyone was drinking. It was late. The wake had been going on for a while. Most people had given up and gone home. But Quiet Manila's grandfather, who was a heavy drinker, was still awake. He was left behind at the drinking session, alone with the coffin.
That is already a bad idea.
He told Quiet Manila later that he noticed something. Someone was peeking from the coffin, from the rooftop, lying down like a human, but it was a dark black figure, not a shadow, not a trick of the light, a solid, dark figure, crouched on the roof tiles, looking down at the coffin through the open window.
Looking at the coffin, at the dead body, like it was deciding what to do.
That is exactly what Quiet Manila believes. The figure was watching the coffin, studying it, maybe waiting for the right moment to do something. And the only person who saw it was the grandfather, alone, drunk, vulnerable, from the rooftop, lying down like a human. But it was a dark black figure.
On the roof, staring at the coffin.
He shouted for someone to pass him a machete. And that thing, whatever it was, ran fast across the rooftops until it vanished. People started screaming because they said it smelled terrible, like something dead. But worse, like something dead that had been dead for a long time. A smell that gets into your clothes, your hair, your lungs. A smell that you cannot wash off. A smell that stays with you for days.
The smell of death, but amplified, concentrated, like the creature carries the essence of decay with it wherever it goes.
That is another pattern in Filipino supernatural encounters. The smell. Almost every creature has a distinct smell. The aswang smells like burning sugar and rotting meat. The manananggal smells like flowers and blood. The capre smells like tobacco and earth. The santalamo smells like sulfur and river water. These smells are warnings, signals that something supernatural is nearby. If you smell something strange in the dark, something that does not belong, pay attention. It might be trying to tell you something. Oh, my baza moved of more between the fro, that's my laugh. Nas dispara is some idoler, one nit no. Exactly my wife is not, the minquo my baza, the motor for the lair. I have some prinny, hather with a new foro. The bully with lights, a new fackle too. Ear is not need through the seor. But the poly, itinerally I do never skip all over Scorda. I hope you min. Get her an absolution. You, the munst,
Or it might be trying to eat you.
that too. Like something dead. But worse.
Like a rotting smell.
Quiet Manila said her aunts figured her grandfather was just drunk and seeing things, but they said it was the first time they saw him that disturbed. He lost his usual drunkard bravado. He was shaken.
That is what gets me. When a tough guy is scared, you know You know that
And the smell, they said it smelled terrible, like something not that is consistent. With aswang encounters, the creature carries the smell of decay, like it has been feeding on the dead.
That is another pattern. The smell. Almost every encounter story mentions a smell. Sweet, rotting, metallic, like flowers mixed with death. It is how you know something is nearby before you see it.
I would rather not smell it. Thank you very much.
Ninila says she was told you should never leave the dead alone, especially without someone to watch over them, and now she understands why.
What do you believe was on the roof and aswang drawn to the body?
In Filipino tradition, the dead attract certain creatures. The mananagan feeds on the recently deceased. The aswang is drawn to the smell of death, and some spirits, some ghosts, appear specifically around wakes and funerals. They are drawn to the threshold between life and death.
The wake is a doorway. The dead person is passing from one world to the next. And that doorway is open. Anything can walk through.
That is exactly how my grandma explained it. She said when someone dies, the boundary between our world and theirs becomes thin. For a few days during the wake, anything can cross over. That is why people light candles. That is why they pray. That is why they never leave the body alone.
So the figure on the roof was drawn by the death. It came because the door was open.
That is one way to look at it. Another way is that the figure was always there, in the neighborhood, watching. And the wake just gave it an excuse to come closer.
This is worse. Because that means it was always watching. Every night. Every gathering. Every moment when the family was together. It was just outside, on the roof, in the dark, waiting.
And the grandfather saw it. The one person who was alone, drunk, vulnerable. That is when it showed itself.
It chose the weakest moment to revive itself. When everyone else was gone, when the old man was alone with the dead.
That is calculated. That is not random. That is not a creature acting on instinct. That is something that understands human behavior, that knows when people are most vulnerable and waits for that exact moment.
I need to stop thinking about this.
Too late. And now she understands why. I have heard that in other cultures too, you never leave a body unattended. Not because of the dead, because something else comes when it senses the dead.
That is a chilling figure. All right, story number 4. This comes from a listener named Foggy Bengay. She was living in Baguio City with her parents. They were renting a house, an old American-style house owned by an American. It started when she was 4 months pregnant.
Pregnant woman, red flag, number 1.
Every single time, pregnant woman, strange noises, roof scratching, it is like a formula.
Her parents did not know yet. But the same night she found out, she went to her room and could not sleep. She felt uneasy. The neighbor's dog was howling continuously. Not the usual howling. It was angry at something. Something outside.
Dogs know. They always know first.
She ended up sleeping in her parents' room that night. Fast forward to 7 or 8 months of her pregnancy, she started waking up in the middle of the night. She could hear scratching on the roof, like something was clawing forcefully at the tin.
Right above where she was sleeping.
Right above where she was sleeping. Her dad said it might be rats, but she knew it was not. It was only in one spot, directly above her. She told her mom, and her mom said to put salt beside her. She was skeptical, but she did it just to keep her mom quiet. She thought it was superstition, old wives' tales, things people said to make themselves feel better about a situation they could not control. It was impossible for anything to climb onto the roof from where they were. Then another thud followed.
Two thuds. Whatever it was walking.
That is exactly what he figured. It was walking on the roof. He was terrified, but he did something that I believe is either very brave or very stupid. He recorded a video.
He filmed it.
He filmed it. He captured the sound of the roof being hit. The next morning, he watched the video and it clearly captured the sound. He showed it to his dad, his mom, his siblings, and some cousins. They were all surprised because the sound of the roof was so loud. His dad even said, "It sounds like someone is messing with the roof."
Did they find anything?
No, nothing. The roof was intact. No footprints, no scratches, nothing. Fast forward to January. Same thing happened again. A loud thud on the roof at 1 in the morning. It woke up his partner. She asked what it was, and he just said it was a tree branch, because he did not want to tell her it might be in Aswang.
Protecting her from the truth.
Then just yesterday, around 12:30 at midnight, they were both asleep when they were suddenly awakened by another loud thud on the roof. They looked at each other. His partner fell back asleep, but he stayed awake. Keep watch.
Where does he live?
An apartment on the second floor, surrounded by woods, no neighboring trees or houses nearby.
Like said. Now is the worst place for this to happen.
He says his phone got reformatted so the video got deleted, but he says if it happens again, he will try to record it and share it with us.
Do you believe recording it would help? Like, would seeing it on video make it less scary?
I do not believe so. If anything, seeing a 9-foot figure walking on your roof on video would be more terrifying than just hearing it. Because then you have proof. And proof means it is real. And real means it can hurt you.
There is a famous case in the Philippines where someone recorded what they claimed was a tibalang on their security camera. The video went viral. Everyone debated whether it was real or fake. But the person who recorded it, they never joked about it. They were serious, terrified, and they goofed.
Moving is the right response. When something shows up on your roof 3 times, it is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. And patterns mean intention.
What was the intention though? To scare him? To feed on him? Or just to watch?
We may never know. And that is the thing about these encounters. You get a piece of the puzzle, a thud on the roof, a scratching at the door, a figure in the dark. But you never get the whole picture. You never understand why it chose you, why your roof, why your door, why your house.
Maybe it is not about you at all. Maybe it is about the house. Maybe the house was built on something or near something, and the creature is not following you, it is following the land.
That is a chilling possibility. Because then it does not matter where you move. The creature is not attached to you. It is attached to the place, and you just happen to be living there.
I do not know. In fact, Spay, I want to see that video.
Neither do I, alright? Let us take a breath. 5 stories in, and we have already covered Mayan Nungal, Aswang, something at a wake, salt protection, and mysterious roof thuds. Angel, what is standing out to you so far?
The salt. 3 of those stories involved salt. The windowsill salt, the bedside salt, and the auntie throwing salt. It is like a universal defense. No matter what creature it is, salt works.
That is what I was thinking. If salt works on everything, what does that tell us about these creatures? Are they all related somehow?
That is a deep question. In Filipino folklore, salt is considered a purifying agent. It wards off evil spirits, prevents possession, and creates a barrier between the living and the supernatural. The fact that it appears across so many different creature stories suggests that maybe, just maybe, the underlying threat
is the same. Something from the other side trying to cross over.
And the roof. Three of those stories also involve the roof. The manyanyagal on the window, the clay pot on the roof during the wake, the scratching above the pregnant woman. Something about being above you, looking down, that is kombu.
It is the vulnerability. You are most exposed when you are sleeping, and when something is above you, you cannot see it, you can only hear it.
That is what makes these stories so effective. They tap into a primal fear, the unknown above you, in the dark, while you are at your most helpless.
And the sound, the scratching, the tapping, it is not just scary because of what it means. It is scary because of what it sounds like, that fingernails on glass and that slow, deliberate tap, 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 like something is testing you. Seeing how you react.
I need to stop looking at my ceiling. I can feel it now, the weight above me, the presence. The idea that something is up there, watching, waiting, listening to everything we say.
Insecting. Thinking, too late, you already looked. And now it knows you looked. And that changes everything because now it knows you are aware, and an aware prey is a different kind of prey.
You two are going to give each other nightmares. Let us just get to the next story before you both start hallucinating. All right, let us get into the next 5. Story number 6. This comes from a listener named Midnight Jolux. This happened when he was in college, studying at a university in Luzon. He had just moved into a rented room near campus, a basic wooden shack with a tin roof, an old windows with jalousies, split into 4 sections. A narrow living room up front, 2 bedrooms, a dining room, and kitchen.
Sounds cozy.
His parents had to go on a business trip and left him alone for a couple of days. First night, he just relaxed, watched some TV, went to bed. But around 1 or 2 in the morning, he woke up to a noise on the roof. Someone was stomping around.
Up there.
Stomping, not walking, stomping. That implies weight, mass, something with a body.
He says it was heavy. The tin roof was literally creaking from the weight. There was no where it was a cat or a rat. The noise seemed to move closer above his room, then away, then back again, like something was pacing, back and forth, directly above where he was lying, measuring the distance, calculating the angle, figuring out the best way to get through the tin, and then it stopped.
The stopping is almost worse because then you are waiting for the next move.
Just when he figured it was over, he heard a scratching sound at the front door. He says it was only about 4 meters away from where he was lying. It went on for about 10 seconds, but he says it felt like eternity. Then, just like that, everything went quiet. No,
Did he check the door?
no, he did not move until morning. When his parents got back, he told them everything. His mom got very serious and told him that the area he moved into was known for its superstitions. Specifically, the wakwak, a creature from Filipino folklore that takes the shape of a bird at night. But not a normal bird. A massive bird with wings like a bat and a hunger for human flesh.
A bird that eats people? That is a new level of terrifying.
The gatwak is one of the lesser known creatures. It does not get the attention that the aswang or the mananinga gets, but in the provinces, it is feared just as much. Because it is silent, it does not make noise when it flies. It just appears. On your roof, at your window, in the tree outside your bedroom, and by the time you hear it, it is already too close. A creature from Filipino folklore that takes the shape of a bird at night.
A bird that is not a bird.
She even told him it might have been a welcome to the neighborhood kind of thing, like the creature was checking him out, seeing who the new person was.
That is terrifying. A creature comes to check you out on your first night alone.
He says he got a miracle and managed to get back to sleep after that. But I do not believe him. How do you fall back asleep after hearing something stomp on your roof and scratch at your door? How do you close your eyes when you know that whatever was outside is still out there?
You do not. You lie there with your eyes wide open, stare at the ceiling, listening to every sound, every creak, every wind gust, every shadow.
And you tell yourself it was the wind, it was a branch, it was a cat. You tell yourself every possible rational explanation until one of them sticks, and then you hold onto that explanation like a lifeline.
That is what we do. We rationalize because the alternative is too terrifying to accept. All right, story number 7. This comes from a listener named Sweet Halo Halo. She was a college student studying in a coastal area. She and her friends went to a resort-like place on a nearby island.
For some kind of training.
Training. On the island. Already sounds like a horror movie.
The place had a hammock you could sleep in, strung between 2 coconut trees, right by the beach. The sound of waves, the smell of salt air, the warm breeze. It looked like paradise. It looked like the perfect place to nap. Sweet Hello, being adventurous, hopped into the hammock around in the evening and fell asleep. Her roommate started looking for her because hours had passed. She did not know what happened, but she woke up because her roommate was pulling her and rushing her to their room.
Rushing? Lapoking. Ra?
She was still groggy, stumbling, not knowing what was going on. She could feel her roommate's fear when he shouted at her to hurry up because something was close. At that point, she could hear something loud behind her. She did not even turn around. She says she did not want to know what was scaring her cocky and super masculine friend.
If the tough guy's running, you run.
When they got into the room, he started yelling at her. He said she was stupid to go out alone at that hour on that island. He was shaking. His hands were trembling. His voice was cracking. This was not a man who was annoyed. This was a man who had just witnessed something that broke his understanding of the world. And he was terrified that he had almost lost his friend to it. He said she was stupid to go out alone at that hour on that island. Turns out, something was hanging from the tree where the hammock was. Apparently, there was someone in the tree stalking her, like she was prey.
Hanging from the tree, watching her sleep.
Watching her sleep in a hammock, defenseless in the dark, on an island. She says she did not even realize how close she was to danger until her roommate told her what he saw. She never went back to that hammock.
What do you believe was in the tree? A tigbangon? An aswang?
The description does not match any specific creature. Something hanging from a tree watching a sleeping person. It could be a capri. Capris are known to sit in trees and observe people. But capris are usually described as massive, smoking tobacco. This was different. This was something that was actively stalking her.
Stalking. That word changes everything. A caper watching you is curious. Something stalking you is hunting.
Her roommate saw it before she did. He was coming to look for her, and he saw the figure in the tree. That is why he rushed. That is why he was terrified. He saw what was about to happen.
And then she was asleep, in a hammock, on an island, in the dark, with something above her, watching, waiting.
If her roommate had not come, she might not be here to tell the story. That is what keeps me up at night about this one.
The narrow margin between a story you tell on a podcast and a story that never gets told.
The roommate saved her life. Without knowing it, he just came to check on his friend. And he saved her something terrible.
That is the lesson. Check on your friends, even when they are just sleeping in a hammock on an island, because you never know what is watching them.
I am never letting anyone I know sleep in a hammock again. Not on an island, not in a forest, not anywhere. Hammocks are death traps.
Same hammocks are bad. I would never go back to that island.
All right, story number 8. This one is from a listener named Spicy Cara Care. She shared something that happened to a friend of hers who is a nurse. The nurse had just been assigned to a hospital. She worked there for almost a month when she noticed that most of the hospital staff avoided one particular nurse.
The avoided nurse trope. That never ends well. In every horror movie, there is always one person that everyone avoids, and there's always a reason.
The nurse in question was quite pretty and nice. So, the new nurse decided to befriend her. She ignored the warnings from the other staff. They hit it off and became close friends. When the new nurse's friend invited her to her parents' house in the province for a fiesta, she readily agreed.
Think fiesta? Food, music, family?
She enjoyed her stay. There was a lot of delicious food. Roasted chicken, pancit, spaghetti, and more. The parents were very hospitable and kind. But she was confused because she realized she was the only visitor. No other friends, no other outsiders. Just her.
That is suspicious.
She left after a few days. Since then, every single night, she dreamed about killing and eating animals. Raw. She had dreams about biting into still alive cats and chickens. The dreams were vivid. She could feel the feathers. She could taste the blood. She could hear the animals screaming. And the worst part, in the dreams, she enjoyed it. She wanted more.
That is possession. That is what possession feels like. Losing control of your own desires. Wanting things that repulse you.
And she did not tell anyone because she was ashamed. She thought something was wrong with her. She did not realize that something was being done to her. Slowly, meal by meal. Though disturbed, she made the soul May Way made it. Self-paping made the cobai Mayview. So shit.
Nightmares about eating raw animals. That is not normal.
What really affected her was when she went to a relative's wake. The moment she saw the dead body in the coffin, a pang of hunger hit her. She says the corpse looked as delicious as lechan.
Oh no!
Julie freaked out. She sought out an albilario, a folk healer. After telling what was happening, the albilario made her drink lana, a viscous liquid. A few seconds later, she threw up a live baby chick. The albilario quickly killed it.
It's alive. Shit. Ain't sire.
She was told she was lucky. The chick had not fully grown yet. If it had, she would have become a wak forever. The albilario said her friend must have been one. And her parents too. And that when she auntie the food, especially the chicken and egg dishes, she had been slowly turned into one herself.
The fook was a trap.
She resigned from the hospital the next day. And she never spoke to that friend again.
That is the most insidious thing I have ever heard. The creature was not hiding in the shadows. It was not lurking in the dark. It was sitting across from her at a dinner table, smiling, serving food, being kind, and the whole time it was turning her into one of them.
Good days. Thank think. The food. That is how they do it. They do not attack you. They feed you. They invite you in. They make you comfortable. And then they change you from the inside out.
That's a different kind of horror. Not the jump scare, not the monster in the dark. The slow transformation, the gradual loss of self, one meal at a time, one dream at a time, until one day you look in the mirror and you do not recognize the person. Looking back,
And the worst part? She did not even know it was happening. She thought she was making a friend. She thought she was enjoying a fiesta. She thought she was eating delicious food. And all the while, she was being poisoned, spiritually poisoned.
Altible Rio saved her. The chick was not fully grown. If it had been, she would have been gone. Forever. A creature that preys on the living.
and the nurse she befriended, still out there, still working at that hospital, still smiling, still being kind, and still looking for the next person to invite home.
That is the scariest part. She is still out there, and there is no way to tell who she is. She looks like everyone else. She acts like everyone else. But she is not everyone else.
And that is the lesson of story 8. Not every danger announces itself. Not every threat wears a mask. Some threats smile at you. Some threats cook you dinner. Some threats become your best friend. And by the time you realize what is happening, you are already part of the transformation.
How do you protect yourself against that? You cannot put salt around the co-workers. You cannot hang garlic in the break room.
You can. Actually, some people do. In the province, workers bring garlic and salt to their workplaces. They put it in their bags, in their pockets, near their desks. It is not about paranoia. It is about awareness. It is about knowing that the supernatural can wear any face and being prepared for that possibility.
That is both practical and terrifying. The idea that you need supernatural protection just to go to work.
Welcome to the Philippines, bro.
God, and he believe you are making a friend, and the whole family that's trying to turn you into a creature.
And the scariest part, during the day, they're just normal people. You would never know. All right, story number 9. This comes from a listener named Gentle Whale. This happened to his sister, who was pregnant at the time. One night, around midnight, they heard a pack of dogs barking and yelping in the neighbor's backyard.
Dog going crazy.
One of the dogs even yelped like it got hit. Then something fell into their water tank at the back of the house. They were surprised because they were still awake. It was around 12 or 1 in the morning, and it seemed like there was someone in their backyard.
Something fell into the water tank.
Into the water tank. What they did was grab weapons. His mom grabbed a machete. He got a knife. One of his siblings grabbed a piece of wood. They also called the police. When they opened the door to go to the backyard, they were shocked. The air was different, heavy, thick, like the atmosphere had changed, like the world itself had shifted into something darker, something more dangerous. And standing by the water tank, in the middle of their backyard, was something that should not have been there.
What did they see?
A figure standing by the water tank. Dark skin, kind of shiny, like suede. Yellow eyes. It looked like a person, but at the same time, it was not. They were all startled. And the figure jumped to the other side of the yard. They quickly shut the door.
Yellow eyes. Shiny dark skin. What creature is that?
He says they know it was an aswang, not just a burglar. The way it moved, the way it looked, the dogs going crazy beforehand, everything pointed to aswang.
The dogs. The dogs always know first. In every story, the dogs go crazy before anything happens.
Dogs can sense things we cannot. Their hearing is more sensitive, their smell is more acute, and according to Filipino folklore, dogs can see spirits. They can see things that are invisible to us. When a pack of dogs starts barking and yelping at nothing, that is a warning.
And one of the dogs got hit. That means the creature was not just passing through, it was attacking, it was silencing the alarm.
That is strategic. That is not animal behavior. That is intelligence. It knew the dogs would alert the family, so it took out the dogs first. Then it went for the water tank. Maybe it was going to contaminate the water. Maybe it was just testing the defenses.
Testing defenses. Like a military operation.
Some Aswang stories describe them as highly intelligent, not mindless monsters. Cunning, patient, strategic. They watch a family for days, weeks before they make their move. They learn the routines. They identify the weak points. And when they strike with precision.
That is what makes them so dangerous. They are not just strong, they are smart.
And the pregnant sister was the target. The family knew it. That is why they grabbed weapons immediately. No hesitation, no discussion, just machetes and knives, and a call to the police, because they understood the stakes.
The stakes are life and death for the mother, for the unborn child, for the entire family.
And that is why Filipino families in the province take these threats so seriously. It is not superstition, it is survival. It is the knowledge that something out there wants to take what is most precious to you, and you will do anything to protect it. The way it moved,
The way it looked, the dogs going crazy beforehand. Everything pointed to Aswang.
And the pregnant sister. That is what they go after.
That is the pattern. Every story tonight involving a pregnant woman has a creature showing up. The man in Angal on the window, the scratching on the roof, the figure in the yard, they all target the unborn.
Why? Why are they drawn to pregnant women?
In Filipino folklore, the unborn child is considered a powerful source of life energy. Creatures like the Manananggal and Aswang feed on this energy. The fetus is essentially a delicacy to them. That is why families in the province take such extreme measures to protect pregnant women. Salt, garlic, stingray, tails. Someone watching the house all night.
Makes you realize how real this fear is for people. It is not just a story, it is a way of life.
All right, story number 10. This comes from a listener named Crispy Adobo. Wait, that is the same name as story 1. Let me check. Actually, this story is from a listener named Broken Kulintong. He shared something that happened to his family around late 1999 to early 2000. His mother was pregnant with his youngest sibling at the time.
Another pregnant woman. That is 4 stories now with pregnant women being targeted.
Their house was still under construction, so they were staying at his grandma's house. He was 6 years old then. One night, his mom woke him up. "We are going to sleep at the neighbor's house," she said. He did not believe much of it. He figured it was just
For
A 6-year-old does not question a midnight move.
They brought their mats and pillows and moved to the neighbor's house. He remembered being surprised because there were so many people outside. His uncle was there with his friends, running around. The adults, his grandma and her friends from the neighborhood, were outside carrying rosaries and holy water. Dick ushered the kids along with his mom into a room. He remembered them sprinkling holy water in the room and putting a broomstick near the door. He fell asleep soon after.
Holy water and a broomstick. Those are traditional protections.
The next day at breakfast, he overheard the adults talking. This is what happened. His uncle and his friends were outside sitting on the curb, chatting. All of a sudden, they saw a big, dark-colored carabao walking slowly on the far end of the road. They were used to seeing carabaos, but not late at night. Carabas are working animals. They sleep at night. They are in their pens, in their sheds, resting after a day of plowing fields. A carabao on the road at midnight is like seeing a construction worker at 3 in the morning. Wrong time, wrong place. Something is off.
In a dark carabao. Not just any carabao, a dark one, standing outside a house, looking at a window.
His uncle and his friends were brave. They grabbed sticks, they chased it, but when they got to the main road, it was gone. No turns, no hiding spots. A straight road with big houses on both sides, well lit, and a 2,000-pound animal just vanished.
It walked into thin air.
Or it was never really there in the first place. At least, not in the way they thought. Usually, the farmers herded them home around dusk.
It's a carabao at midnight.
They got goosebumps because the carabao stopped in front of his grandma's house, right outside his mom's window. So his uncle and his friends tried to shoo it away. The carabao just stood there, as if observing. Then his uncle's friend grabbed a stick and hit the carabao on its
Cack! It ran towards the main road. They chased it.
They chased a midnight carabao.
When they reached the tricycle terminal at the corner, they asked the drivers if they saw a carabao passing by. The drivers were puzzled. They did not see any carabao. There were no turns or hiding spots because the road was straight and lined with big houses. Besides, an animal ridiculed that size would be impossible to miss, especially since the place was well lit.
Where did it go?
And it vanished. Just gone. In the morning, when other farmers passed by, they asked if anyone had lost a carabao. Nobody did. It was the talk of the neighborhood for a few weeks, and it never happened again.
Carabao that Alfie disappears right outside a pregnant woman's window.
He asked his mom if she remembered, but she did not. But when he asked his grandma and his uncle, they recalled the event exactly the way he did. 6 years old, and it is burned into his memory.
What do you believe it was? A real carabao? Or something else?
In Filipino folklore, some creatures can take the form of animals. A tikbalang can appear as a horse. An aswang can appear as a carapao. The fact that it targeted a pregnant woman's window, appeared from nowhere, and vanished without a trace suggests it was not an ordinary animal.
And family reacted the same way as the auntie in story 1. Holy water, broomsticks, rosaries, they knew what to do.
That is the thread running through all of these stories. The families know. They have known for generations. The knowledge is passed down. Not in books, not in schools, in whispered warnings at bedtime. In the way your grandma tells you to put salt by the door. In the way your uncle grabs a machete without being told why.
That is what I find most fascinating about Filipino folklore. It is living knowledge. It is not mythology. It is survival.
Well said. Let us take a break from the stories for a moment. Angel, Zach, we have heard 10 stories now. What is the overall feeling?
Honestly, I am scared, but also impressed by how prepared these families are. They do not panic. They act. Salt, garlic, holy water, machetes. They have a toolkit for the supernatural.
What strikes me is the consistency. Different provinces, different families, different creatures, but the same patterns: roof scratching, pregnant women targeted, salt as protection, animals that are not animals. It all fits together.
That is because these stories come from the same root, the same oral tradition, the same fear passed down through centuries. And tonight, we are continuing that tradition by sharing them with you.
All right. I need a moment. These stories are intense.
Same, but I am ready for the next five.
Then let us go. Story number 11. This comes from a listener named Quiet Manila. Wait, I already used that name. Let me use a different one. This story comes from a listener named Midnight Jologs. Actually, let me keep the names unique. This story is from a listener named Foggy Benge. No. I used that too. Let me reorganize. Okay, let me just continue with the stories. Story number 11. This comes from a listener named Brave Carabao. He says this story is not his, but it happened to his cousin. His cousin was working as a security guard at a factory in Laguna. The factory was in a relatively
Isolated area, surrounded by fields and a few scattered houses. His cousin worked the night shift, alone.
Night shift alone in the province.
One night, around 2 in the morning, his cousin was doing his rounds. He was walking along the perimeter fence when he heard something. A sound like someone dragging their feet across gravel. Slow, deliberate, coming from behind the factory. The kind of sound that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Because it is not random. It has intention. It has direction. It is coming toward you.
Let's find the factory where there are no lights, just an open field and a few scattered trees.
Exactly. And at 2 in the morning, in the middle of nowhere, with no one else around. Just him and whatever was making that sound. Slow, deliberate. Coming from behind the factory.
Behind the factory, where there are no lights.
His cousin grabbed his flashlight and walked toward the sound. He shone the light behind the factory. Nothing. Just an empty field. But the sound continued. It was coming from inside the field now, moving parallel to him, keeping pace.
It was following him.
He stopped walking. The sound stopped. He took a step. The sound took a step. He shone his light into the field again. This time he saw something. A figure, standing about 30 meters away. It was tall, very tall. And it was standing perfectly still. Not breathing. Not moving. Just standing, like a statue made of darkness. A figure, standing about 30 meters away. It was tall, very tall. And it was standing perfectly still.
How tall?
He said it was taller than the fence. The fence was about 2 meters, so this thing was at least 2.5 meters tall. Maybe more. And it was dark. Not shadowy, dark. Like it absorbed the light from the flashlight.
That is not natural.
His cousin said he felt a cold wave wash over him. Not from the air, from inside. Like his blood was turning to ice. He could not move. He could not speak. He just stood there, staring at the figure. And the figure stared back.
What did it do?
Nothing. It just stood there. For what felt like minutes. Then, without any sudden movement, it turned and walked into the field. Not ran, walked, slowly. Like it was not afraid of being seen. Like it wanted him to watch.
That confidence, that is what is terrifying. It was not hiding.
His cousin ran back to the guardhouse. He locked the door. He did not go outside again until sunrise. When the morning shift arrived, they found footprints in the field. Large footprints. Much larger than a human foot, leading from behind the factory deep into the field, and then stopping.
Just stopping. Like whatever made them had vanished into thin air.
What did it see, Colin?
He does not know. He says it did not look like any creature he had ever heard of. It was too tall to be human, too dark to be an animal. And it moved with a calmness that scared him more than anything else.
The calm ones are the worst. The angry ones, the hungry ones, at least you know what they want. The calm ones, you have no idea.
His cousin quit that job 2 weeks later. He drives a delivery truck now. Day shifts only.
Can you blame him? Standing alone in the dark, watching a 2.5-meter figure just stand there staring at you. I would quit too.
What gets me is the footprints. They were there. Physical evidence. Large footprints leading from behind the factory into the field and then stopping. Like whatever made them just vanished.
How do footprints just stop? Either the creature flew away, or it transformed into something else, or it walked into a place where the ground changes.
Or it was never physical in the first place. Some spirits can leave physical traces without being fully corporeal. They can touch the ground, leave marks, affect the physical world. But they are not solid. They are between.
Between worlds, between real and not work.
Exactly. And that is the most terrifying kind of encounter, because you cannot fight something that is not fully there. You cannot hit it. You cannot catch it. You can only watch it and hope it leaves.
Miss Sazan did the right thing. He stood his ground initially, he shone his light, he tried to identify the threat, and when he realized he could not fight it, he ran. That is not cowardice. That is intelligence.
Having when to run is a skill, and his cousin has it. That is why he is alive. That is why he can tell this story.
Day shifts only. That is the takeaway from every single one of these stories. If you can avoid being alone in the dark, avoid it. Because the dark belongs to them.
You cannot blame him.
All right, story number 12. This comes from a listener named Sleepy Tarsier. This happened to his grandmother decades ago in a small barrio in the Visayas. His grandmother was walking home from a neighbor's house late at night. The path went through a grove of coconut trees. It was a path she had walked 1,000 times. She knew every tree, every stone.
The familiar path. That is where the scariest things happen. Not the unfamiliar paths. The ones you have walked 1,000 times. Because that is when your guard is down.
Halfway through the grove, she felt something. Not saw, felt. Like someone was walking behind her. She did not turn around. She picked up her pace. The presence kept pace. She started walking faster. The presence matched her.
What was it?
She said she could hear footsteps. But they were not normal footsteps. They were heavy. And they had a rhythm that was almost like a heartbeat. Thud. Thud. Getting closer.
How close?
Close enough that she could feel breath on the back of her neck. Warm breath. That smelled like decay, like rotting leaves and something sweet underneath. Like flowers that had been left in water too long. That sickly sweet smell of something beautiful that is starting to die.
So,
And she did not turn around. She knew better. In the province, you learn early. Never look back when you feel something behind you. Because if you look, you see it. And if you see it, it sees you seeing it. And then you're connected. Then it has a claim on you.
That is terrifying. The idea that looking at something supernatural gives it power over you.
That is the belief. And it is why so many encounter stories end with the person running without looking back. Because looking back is the worst thing you can do. Warm breath, that smell, like decay, like rotting leaves, and something sweet underneath. She did not look back. She ran. She ran all the way home. When she got inside, she locked the door and did not open it until morning.
Did she ever find out what it was?
She told the neighbors the next day. An old woman in the barrio said it was a capre, a giant that lives in trees. She said the capre had probably been sitting in one of the coconut trees, watching people pass by. And when it saw the grandmother walking alone,
At night, it followed her. Not to hurt her, just to see how she would react.
Just to see, like a test.
the old woman said, caperes are like that. They are curious, mischievous. They like to follow people and watch them get scared. But they rarely hurt anyone. Unless you damage their tree, then they become violent.
So the grandmother was basically followed home by a curious giant.
That is one way to put it. She never walked through that grove at night again. Day or night, she took the long way around.
The cat could follow her home. Just because it could. Just because it wanted to see her reaction.
That is the Copre personality. They're curious, mischievous. They enjoy watching people get scared. But they are not inherently violent. Unless you damage their tree, then all bets are off.
So the lesson is, do not cut down trees, do not damage the environment, because the kapre will remember, and it will come for you.
There's one lesson. Another lesson is, do not walk alone at night, especially through groves, especially through areas where you know supernatural creatures live. Because even if they're not dangerous, the experience will change you. You will never feel safe in that grove again.
My grandmother used to say the forest has its own people. We are guests there. When we enter, we should ask permission. That way, the forest people know you respect them, and they let you pass.
Respect. That is the key word in every story tonight. Respect is the difference between safety and danger. The auntie in story 1 showed respect by acting quickly, without panic. The family in story 2 showed respect by knowing the creature name. The grandfather in story 3 was alone and vulnerable. No one was there to show respect on his behalf.
So the creatures respond to respect, to acknowledgement, to the simple act of saying, I see you, I know you are here, I mean no harm.
That is a beautiful way to put it, and it applies to so many Filipino supernatural traditions. The offering of food to the Encanto, the prayer before entering the forest, the salt by the door. These are all acts of respect, ways of saying, we share this world, let us think exist peacefully.
I do not blame her. I would take the long way too.
All right, story number 13. This comes from a listener named Spicy Kakara. This happened to her uncle, who was a fisherman in a coastal town in the Visayas. He would go out to sea before dawn every morning. One morning, he left the house at 4 in the morning. It was still dark. The sky was clear. No clouds. Stars everywhere.
Beautiful setting. Calm before the storm.
He walked down the dirt path from his house to the shore. The path went through a small patch of mangroves. The mangroves were thick. The roots twisted and turned above the mud like fingers reaching for something. In the daylight, it was beautiful. At 4 in the morning, in the dark, it was a corridor of shadows. And at the end of that corridor, something was waiting. The path went through a small patch of mangroves. As he was walking, he noticed something. A light, hovering above the mangroves. Not a flashlight, not a firefly. A steady, blue-white light. About the size of a basketball, just floating there.
A floating light, that is really terrifying.
He stopped walking. The light stopped moving. They just looked at each other. Or rather, he looked at it. He does not know if it was looking at him. Then the light started to move, slowly, toward him.
Putin.
He turned around and ran. He did not look back. He ran all the way to the shore, jumped into his boat, and went out to sea. He did not come back until the sun was fully up. When he told the other fishermen, they all nodded. They had seen it too. They called it a santelmo. A fire spirit? A ball of light that appears near water and mangroves. Some say it is the spirit of someone who drowned. Others say it is something older than that. Something that was there before the people came.
A fire spirit. That is a new one for me.
San Telmo stories are common in coastal areas. Fishermen see them all the time. The belief is that if you follow the light, it will lead you into the water, and once you are in the water, it will pull you under.
Lure. Like an anglerfish.
Exactly like that. His uncle never walked through that mangrove patch before dawn again. He would wait until there was enough light to see clearly. And he always made sure someone was walking with him.
St. Elmo. Fire spirit. I have heard of these, but never in the context of a fisherman encountering one on the way to his boats.
Fishermen see them more than anyone else. Because they are near water, and San Telmo are associated with water. They appear near rivers, lakes, coastlines. They are the spirits of people who drowned, or at least that is one belief. Another belief is that they are older than people, elemental spirits that have been there since before humans arrived.
The light that lures you into the water. That is how deep sea fish work. They have a light on their head that attracts prey. And then they eat it.
That is exactly the comparison. San Telmo are nature anglerfish. They use light to draw you in, and once you are in the water, you are theirs.
What if you follow the light on land? Does it still lead you to water?
The stories say yes. No matter where you are, if you follow San Telmo, you will end up near water. It might take you through a field, through a forest, through a village, but eventually the path leads to water. And that is where it gets you.
The fisherman was smart to run. Most people are not. Most people are curious. They see a beautiful light in the dark and they want to know what it is. And that curiosity kills them.
Curiosity is the most dangerous human trait when it comes to the supernatural. Every single story tonight involves someone who was curious, or someone who was alone, or both. Curiosity plus isolation equals trouble.
And yet, we keep being curious. We keep looking. We keep investigating. We keep walking into dark rooms and opening mysterious doors and following strange lights.
That is human nature. We cannot help it. We are wired to explore, to discover, to understand, even when understanding might destroy us.
That is why stories are so important. They satisfy our curiosity without putting us in danger. We can experience the fear without the risk. We can walk through the haunted grove without actually being there. We can face the creature without actually meeting it. Stories are our safe way of exploring the unknown.
Safe. I do not feel safe after tonight. I feel terrified.
But you are terrified in the safety of this room. With us, with friends, with a microphone and a recording device, you are not terrified. Alone in a dark grove with something breathing on your neck.
That is the difference. Stories let us feel the fear without the danger, and that is a gift. That is what our ancestors gave us, the ability to experience the supernatural through words, through voices, through the ancient art of storytelling.
And now we are passing that gift to everyone listening. 15 stories, 15 encounters, 15 moments of fear and wonder and disbelief. And every single one of them is real.
Real to the person who experienced it, real to the family who passed it down, real to the community that believes it, and real to us now, tonight, in this room.
That is the power of stories. They make the impossible possible. They make the unbelievable believable. And they make the terrifying survivable. Every single story tonight involves someone who was curious, or someone who was alone, or both. Curiosity plus isolation equals trouble.
That should be a rule. Write it on the wall. Curiosity plus isolation equals trouble.
I like that. Let us make that the motto of the show.
Safety in numbers. That seems to be a theme too.
All right, story number 14. This comes from a listener named Broken Kulintang. This is a short one, but it hit different. She was about 12 years old. She was sleeping over at her cousin's house in the province. The house was made of wood, elevated on stilts, traditional Bahay Kubo style.
Classic Filipino house, elevated on stilts, wood, bamboo, open air, underneath.
She was sleeping on the floor with her cousins. Around 3 in the morning, she woke up. She did not know why. She just felt like she should be awake. She opened her eyes, and she saw something under the house, through the gaps in the floorboards. A face, looking back her. From below. From the space between the stilts.
A face under the house, looking up through the floor. That is a new one. I have heard of things on the roof, things in the hallway, things outside the window, but under the house, looking up at you through the gaps?
She could see it clearly because the moon was bright. A full moon. The kind of moon that turns the night into a silver-tinted day. The kind of moon that shows everything, including the face under the house. It was a woman's face, pale, white, with long black hair hanging. That. Then the face was smiling. Not a friendly smile, a hungry smile.
Oh God. Who?
She could not move. She could not scream. She just lay there, staring at the face, and the face stared back, smiling. Then, slowly, the face started to rise, like something was lifting it up from below, getting closer to the floor, closer to the gaps.
Things coming up through the floor. For
She said she closed her eyes and pulled the blanket over her head. She stayed like that until sunrise.
When she finally looked, there was nothing there. No face, no marks, nothing. She told her cousins, and they were not surprised. They said it was a white lady, a spirit. If a woman who died in the house years ago. She appears to people who sleep on the floor, especially children.
Children. She goes after children.
The cousin said she was harmless. She just liked to watch. But that smile, that hungry smile, that does not sound harmless to me.
Thing. Think a face on the house, looking up on top of your girl through the floorboards, in the moonlight, and smiling.
Get? I could be a remake this girl that we can distillate. There's another purgator work actually equal to the gaps in the one who understart to do the pash. The pash, there's a time of purgator on in the people. Think at that. Ants. Hem Plevi 61 comes to. Now, they know the edge to us as in skating between over the Starksians and my off yung fin in.
And she was alone. Well, her cousins were there, but they were asleep. She was the only one awake, the only one who saw it, the only one who knew that something was watching her from below.
What if she had looked down? What if she had made eye contact? What would have happened?
We do not know, and I am not sure we want to know. Some encounters are meant to be brief. A glance, a moment, a connection between two worlds that lasts just long enough to leave a mark. And then it is over.
But is it ever really over? She still remembers it. Decades later, she sent this story to us. That means it is still with her, still vivid, still real.
That is the mark. The encounter changed her. Not physically, not dramatically, but something shifted inside her. A door opened that never fully closed, and now she knows. She knows that under every house, in every gap between the stilts, in every shadow beneath the floor, something might be watching.
I am never sleeping on the floor again.
I am never sleeping in a bahat kaba again.
I am never sleeping again.
It sounds like she was deciding whether to do something or not. No,
Exactly. That is the thing about white lady stories. They are not always violent. Sometimes they are just there, watching, waiting, and you do not know what they are waiting for.
I need to sneak on a bed from now on. No more floor mattresses.
All right, last story. Story number 15. This comes from a listener named Gentle Whale. This is the one that kept me up for 3 nights because it is different from all the others. It is not about a creature. It is not about a monster. It is about a ghost. Real ghost. A person who died and never left. He was a college student, staying in a dormitory near his university. The dorm was an old building. Concrete, 3 floors. His room was on the top floor, at the end of the hallway. The last room.
how last room, that is. Always the haunted one.
He had been living there for a few months with no issues. Then, one night, around 2 in the morning, he woke up to a sound. Someone was knocking on his door. Not banging, knocking. 3 slow knocks.
3 knocks. That is a pattern.
He got up, went to the door, and looked through the people. The people distorted everything, made the hallway look like a tunnel, made the walls curve inward, made the light at the end of the hall flicker. But through all that distortion, he could see that the hallway was empty. No one there, no sound, just the hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant dump of music from another room. Nobody there. The hallway was empty. He went back to bed. 10 minutes later, 3 more knocks. He got up again, looked through the peephole. Still empty. This happened 4 more times over the next hour. Always 3 knocks. Always nobody there.
Did he open the door?
Eventually, yes. After the 6th time, he opened the door and stepped into the hallway. He looked left. Empty. He looked right. And at the far end of the hallway near the stairs, he saw a figure. It was standing perfectly still. A woman. Long hair, white dress, facing him.
A white lady in a dormitory.
She was about 15 meters away. He could see her clearly because the hallway light was on. She was just standing there, not moving, not breathing, just standing. And then she smiled. The same hungry smile from the previous story. No, different smile. This one was sad, like she wanted something she could not have.
What did he do?
He closed the door. He sat on his bed. He did not sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, he asked the dorm manager about the hallway. He was casual about it, just making conversation. But his hands were shaking. His voice was steady, but his hands told a different story. The dorm manager looked at him for a long moment. Then she sighed, like she had been waiting for someone to ask. Like she had been dreading this conversation.
You knew. She knew the whole time.
She told him that a female student had died in that dormitory 10 years ago. She had been living in the room at the end of the hallway, his room. She had died alone, in her sleep. No one found her for 3 days. 3 days of lying there, in that room, while students walked past her door, while music played, while life went on, and she was gone.
3 days. That is a part that gets me, not the ghost, not the appearance, the fact that she died and no one noticed, no one checked on her, no one knocked on her door. She was invisible even when she was alive.
And then she became a ghost that haunts the same hallway where she lived, the same room where she died. Not to scare people, but to be seen, to be acknowledged, to finally have someone know she was there.
That is the saddest ghost story I have ever heard.
It is. And that is the thing about ghost stories. Not every ghost is a monster. Some of them are just people who are lost, people who are stuck, people who want to be remembered. The manager told him that a female student had died in that dormitory 10 years fucking. She had been living in the room at the end of the hallway, his room. She had died alone, in her sleep. No one found her for 3 days.
3 days.
He moved out the next week. He said he could not stay in a room where someone had died alone and been forgotten for 3 days. But he says, sometimes, late at night, he still believes about that sad smile. And he wonders what she was trying to tell him.
Maybe she was not trying to scare him. Maybe she was trying to reach out to someone who could see her.
That is actually really sad.
The dorm manager told him about her after he asked, like it was common knowledge, like everyone knew, but no one did anything about it.
That is the saddest part.
She died and the world moved on. The dorm filled with new students, new lives, new stories. And she was still there, in the same room, in the same hallway, watching, waiting, forgotten.
We remember her now through this story, through this podcast. She is not forgotten anymore.
And that, I believe, is why she appeared to Gentle Whale. Not to scare him, but to finally be seen. To finally have someone know she was there. To finally have her story told.
That is the power of stories. They bring the forgotten back to life. Even if it is just for a moment, even if it is just through a podcast, they matter.
They matter. And that is why we do this show, not just to scare people, but to remember, to honor the stories that have been passed down for generations, and to add new ones, like tonight. 15 stories, 15 encounters, 15 people who saw something they cannot explain. And now, 15 stories that will live on. All right, 15 stories. That is a wrap on the stories. 15 different people, 15 different places, 15 different creatures, and yet they all share something in common. A moment of pure, undeniable terror. A moment when the world as they knew it cracked open and something from the other side looked back at them.
And every single one of them survived. They are still here. They are still telling the story. That is the most important part.
Because the story does not end with the encounter, it ends with the telling. When you share what happened, you take back the power, you take back the fear, you turn something that was terrifying into something that is meaningful.
That is beautifully said. And it is exactly what we are doing tonight. Taking back the power, one story at a time. But before we go, let us talk about what we have heard tonight. Angel, what was your favorite? But before we go, let us talk about what we have heard tonight. Angel, what was your favorite?
The hammock story. We had a hello hello on the island, something hanging from a chain watching her sleep. That image is going to stay with me forever.
Since man since time simply hell.
For me, it was the wake story, the grandfather seeing a figure on the roof staring at the coffin. There's something about a dead body being watched by something alive, or something that used to be alive.
For me, it was the nurse story. The idea that someone can slowly turn you into a creature without you knowing. By feeding you, by being kind to you, that is a different kind of horror. Not sudden, slow, insidious.
What about the patterns? What did you notice?
Salt, roof, pregnant women, animals that are not animals, familiar paths that become unfamiliar, the dark, the night, the isolation. These are the ingredients of Filipino supernatural stories, and they have been the ingredients for hundreds of years.
What I find interesting is that none of the creatures in these stories are purely evil. The Capra was curious, the White Lady was sad, the Santelmo was just a light, even the Manangang was just hungry. They are not villains, they are just part of the world, a world that we do not fully understand.
That is a beautiful way to put it. They are part of the world, and we have to learn to live alongside them with salt, with garlic, with holy water, and with respect.
In sense and with stories, because stories are how we make sense of them. When you tell a story about a Capri, you are not just sharing a scary tale, you are teaching someone how to survive. You are giving them the tools, the salt, the garlic, the knowledge.
I doesn't find that day. It's also exactly right. Every story is a survival guide,
disguised as entertainment. The Capre story teaches you to respect trees. The Manananggal story teaches you to protect pregnant women. The San Telmo story teaches you to stay away from mysterious lights near water. These are not just stories, they are instructions.
We are passing them on to everyone listening, to everyone who will listen after this episode. The chain continues.
That is the legacy of Filipino folklore. It is not dead. It is not a museum piece. It is alive. It is evolving. And it is as relevant today as it was 100 years ago. Maybe more relevant. Because now, more than ever, we need to remember that the world is bigger than what we can see.
And that the things we cannot see are not always evil. Sometimes they are just different. Sometimes they are just older than us, older than our cities, older than our stories. They were here first, and we are just visitors in their world.
As a humbling thought, we believe we own the world. We build our houses, our roads, our cities, but underneath it all, in the spaces between, in the gaps between the floorboards and the roots of the trees, something else is living, something that was here long before us. They will help be here long after we are gone.
And that is not a sad thought. That is a beautiful thought because it means we are not alone. We share this world with others, with creatures that have their own stories, their own lives, their own purposes. And if we are lucky, if we are respectful, if we are think, maybe they will share their world with us too.
Through stories, through encounters, through the 15 stories we heard tonight.
Exactly. Through stories. It is not dead. It is not a museum piece. It is alive. It is evolving. And it is as relevant today as it was 100 years ago. Maybe more relevant. Because now, more than ever, we need to remember that the world is bigger than what we can see, and with stories. Because stories are how we pass the knowledge down from grandma to apple, from generation to generation. And tonight, we added 15 more stories to that tradition.
Thank you to everyone who sent in their stories: Crispy Adobo, Sleepy Tarsier, Quiet Manila, Foggy Benyet, Brave Parabao, Midnight Chulogs, Sweet Hilo Hilo, Spicy Karkari, Gentle, Huo, Broken, Kulintang, and everyone else. Your stories matter, your experiences are real, and we are honored to share them.
If you have your own encounter, send it to us. We want to hear it. We want to share it. Because every story makes the world a little less scary or a little more, depending on how you look at it.
If you enjoyed tonight's episode, hit subscribe, leave us a review, and share this with a friend who loves a good scare. Put us on while you work, commute, do chores. We will keep you company, and we will keep you scared.
Hi, an angel.
And I am Zach.
And I am Paul. Good night, everyone. Stay safe. And remember, if you hear something on your roof tonight, do not look up. Just put salt by the door and go back to sleep.
And check your people before opening the door.
And do not eat food from strangers.
And do not walk through coconut groves at night.
And do not sleep in hammocks on islands.
And if a pretty nurse invites you to a fiesta, say no.
Basically, trust nothing, question everything, and keep salt in your pocket at all times.
Good. That is the most practical advice we have ever given on this show.
It is also the most paranoid.
Paranoid is just another word for prepared. Good night, everyone.
And remember, if you hear scratching on your roof tonight, it is probably just the wind.
It is never just the wind.
It is never just the wind. good night.
And if you smell something weird, leave. Just leave. Do not investigate. Do not be curious, just go.
And if you hear scratching at your door, do not open it. Do not look through the peephole. Just put your earbuds in and play this podcast on repeat.
That is actually good advice. Our podcast is supernatural protection. I like that.
So is Philippines. The only podcast that doubles as a security system.
We should put that on the website. Ah, ah,
Good night, everyone. Stay safe, stay aimed, and stay scared. That is what we are here for.
That is terrible advice.
It is the best advice I have. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Stories Philippines podcast is an independent production made possible by Hustle Studios. The stories, accounts, and topics discussed in this episode are intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Hustle Studios or its affiliates. Some names, dates, and identifying details may have been altered to protect the privacy of individuals and families involved, particularly in cases of true crime or ongoing investigations. Listener discretion is heavily advised. All content, narrations, and sound designs are protected under copyright law. Thank you for listening, and stay safe.